The first presenters will be our colleagues from Southeastern Finland University of Applied Sciences. Their topic is Citizen Archive as a case study in personal information management, my data and digital archiving. Please, M.Lampi, Talsi and Kosonen to start your presentation.
Okay, so we are here to speak about Citizen Archive, which is a program that we have been developing with, and it's used here as a case study in which we are connecting personal information management, my data, and personal digital archiving. And in the next presentation, Anja Askleren will tell you more about the details of Citizen Archives. This is M.Lampi, and he's a research manager in Southeastern Finland University of Applied Sciences. And I'm Talsi, and I'm research director of digital economy in the same university. And Mia Kosonen is not here today, but she has been contributed to the paper, and her expertise is in data management and knowledge management. Okay, some words about our background from the university. The name of the university is Southeastern Finland University of Applied Sciences, but it has formerly known as Mikkeli University of Applied Sciences, and I think at least some of you are familiar with that organization. We have more than 15 years of experience of research and development projects concerning to digital information management, digital archiving, and digital preservation. And what we did 2 years ago, we founded Digitalia, which is a research center of digital information management. And it's a very unique center, also in a sense that it's a joint research unit with Southeastern Finland University of Applied Sciences, with Helsinki University and National Library of Finland. Mikko will tell you more about our subjects.
Okay, thank you, Nora, for the introduction. So first, I will go to the conclusions in case I will go into panic and I forget what I'm going to talk about. So the key idea here is that from our perspective, personal archiving is not only archiving, it's much more. And we are proposing that we combine the ideas from the personal information management, digital personal archiving, and my data. And the paper is a bit longer description on how and why we are proposing this. And finally, we are proposing that all of this should be human-centric versus organization or process-centric. Now that being said, the big picture, why we are talking about this, is that we are now living in the age of software, in the age of data, age of information. We all leave digital footprints when we do stuff online or offline. It doesn't matter if we want to leave those or no. If we are not aware of those, they might become digital shadows which are haunting us. And the data is growing, the amount of data is growing, this volume is growing, the velocity is growing, and also the variety of the information. And these are the problems that we need to tackle. And also, if we think about people, people are what make culture. How do we create that kind of national or international or local memory, if not from the people? And if you take a look at the service providers, is it like the institutional, the traditional archives who are providing these services? Is it the people themselves, or is it like the companies? Do we trust the goodwill of like King GAFA, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and such? So let's go to the case, Citizen Archive. In a nutshell, we hope to create this kind of service that is made from professional archiving components for the people without professional archiving knowledge. And most likely those people do not actually want to have that kind of professional knowledge, because acquiring that knowledge is hard work and people tend to be lazy. And we are trying to build this kind of system that puts together stuff from the professional services and from the commercial services, which are easy to use, provide intuitive user interfaces and are fun, and the professional stuff that is practically the opposite, but it's kind of useful and does the thing. We have a couple of aspects into the design philosophy. We want that in technical perspective, it should support organizing all kinds of data and doing technically right things with the right data, managing metadata and the processes. Also, we want to take human into the equation so that we actually build stuff for the humans, not humans to use the systems. And also we consider community, because when we talk about people, they belong to communities such as families and things like that. So it's really important. And finally, people as a whole create the society, and this has a big impact on how information society can be interacted with. We have done a lot of development. This all started some years ago. We have a small team developing this, and basically it's built on open source. The early versions of the software itself are all open source, and we try to use all the existing knowledge and community so that we don't reinvent the wheel when it's not necessary. We actually found a couple of cases where it is necessary to reinvent the wheel. And if you like to talk about tech, please find me afterwards. I can talk like hours regarding tech. Okay, that was the introduction. Now I hope to get to the actual point, which is the three approaches: the personal information management, personal digital archiving, and my data. First of all, we might want to inspect why we archive stuff. What is the motivation for that? Obviously, we archive stuff because we don't want to lose it, because we want to find it later. It's really obvious. But also, we might archive something that we want to share with, for example, with family, or we want to leave that behind when time passes on. Or we might want to construct identity of us. We usually do stuff that we feel like is part of me, or I want to create that kind of image of myself that I want to express to other people. It might not actually be who I am, but I want to look like that. The typical materials, usually, they used to be like print documents. Now there are more and more stuff that is born digital, and what is like more confusing, more and more stuff that is on online platforms like social media. That is really essential. But basically, typical materials cover things like emails, photographs, videos, and they can be like produced and archived by people themselves, or small communities, or perhaps organizations that these people belong to. But there are challenges. As I said, in this age of data, how do we archive things that are huge if we don't know exactly what we have? The variety of the data is so big, and the accelerating speed is too much. How do we build stuff to manage that? Also, how do we do value definition? And if we consider online services, there are like plenty. You can use one service for this, one service for that. It creates lots of silos, and if those are commercial services, they are often designed as silos to prevent competition. And as I said, we are lazy. We lack kind of self-discipline when it comes like managing our own information. I will talk a bit more about that when I go to the personal information management part. But I made this kind of small comparison, what people are good at and what archives are good at. This is based on some literature and some like my personal like view. Usually archives are pretty good at curation and classification, doing things that are defined by policies. And it's a kind of good thing when the policy fits the use case. But if you think about people, often they have different views on what is valuable than the institutional archives. So I think that people win in that value definition and value creation. They probably can come up with lots more use cases than the organizations. And it's a tie when it comes to decision making. Should the decision on archiving be made because of the process says that, okay, this is how you actually make sure that this stuff survives. You do this kind of migration, you do this kind of metadata, and then this will be safe. Or do you do that because of you think that is valuable? So this is where the personal information management comes in. There's been lots and lots of research on how people actually do stuff. Lots of the people, for example, accumulate data, information, and don't have kind of classification scheme or something like that. And only way to cope with that accumulation is actually to lose the data. Oftentimes I have like tons of emails in my mailbox, and only thing I can do is like select all and delete. That's the way how people do lots of times. Also, people are not really good at creating classification systems and actually using them, because there's like no need to do that. It's not that much fun. So maybe the personal archiving systems should adapt to how people behave, how they act, what they know, and what is intuitive, and then be built based on those, instead of trying to create processes and policies that people need to adapt to. And when it comes to managing information, definitely archiving that information is really important function that should be there. And we don't see that archiving and using information are like exclusive. If you are archiving, it doesn't mean that you no longer use that. And it can be that information becomes passive for some time, and then it becomes important again, especially if it's like digital memories that we used to like archive or at least store. What is kind of novel approach is this My Data? Have any of you heard about this before? Okay, a couple of people. There was, I see that you have not been paying attention. It was, I think, on the first day, the Estonian people told about My Data as well. Okay, this is a small recap. My Data refers to two things. It refers to the principles, and it refers to the subset of personal data that obeys to those principles. So it's about control. It's about that human is in control of the information that is about that person. So it's not about ownership, it's about control, and it's about consent. The people can give permission to some party to use that data for some purpose, and maybe for some period of time. Also, My Data should be usable. It should be usable for the people themselves, so it has to be understandable. It has to include that kind of metadata that you know what it's about, descriptive metadata and technical metadata. And it also needs to be usable for the machines. It needs to be machine readable. It should be in open standard format. It should be available with APIs instead of like offline copy. And finally, it's about decentralization. There is no longer single point that governs everything. The single point can actually be the human, but it's not like technical a platform. It's about idea how this kind of information should be managed. And as you see from the picture, it really covers a lot of different kind of topics, and all of those topics might include something that people think is worth preserving and archiving for some purpose or another. If you want to download a white paper about this stuff, you can scan the QR code. It's in English and it's kind of short, like 10 or 12 pages, or 11 I heard. So as I said, it's built on the idea of consent, and because of that it auto-includes things like transparency, and if things are transparent you probably have better equipment to evaluate if you trust something or no. And that also makes it a pretty good starting point for preparing for GDPR. Also, it's about digital rights. You have right to the data that is about you. It's not necessary that you own the data, it's about the control. So it's also kind of redefining what is ownership of data. And does it really matter? Digital things are not like physical. It doesn't matter that much who owns it. It matters more if you have access to your own data, if you can have decision-making power regarding that. So it's empowering people. And within that power should be the power to archive. And it's of course benefits. You can open it for research, you can provide it to commercial service provider to get better services, and you can do a lot more with the stuff you have. About conclusions. The next things we are going to do with the Citizen Archive, we are going to develop a better user interface, trying to link with existing services so that we are not creating yet another silo. Instead, we are talking to other silos and trying to like break those. And it would be quite good to have some kind of business model that it could run itself. At the moment, it's non-profit, it's in early beta phase, but we hope it could actually be like service that supports itself. So what do you think? Do these concepts fit together? Here are some topics that we are currently putting research effort in. If you are interested in those, come to talk to me or Nora, or send email, send questions in Twitter, or at least read the white paper and then think about it. So finally, I think that archives are like treasure chambers. Who wouldn't want to have their own personal treasure chamber? Sounds good, right? Okay, let's talk.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have a question about my data?
I have a quick question. You mentioned that my data is based on the consent.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think the basic citizen understand what's behind the consent? Because I imagine you have a long list of what you're authorized to do with the data, but I doubt the citizen is really looking at this. So how do you plan to get them informed and make them aware of what it means consent around personal data?
Yeah, that's a tricky problem. And you are absolutely right that usually people are not that much interested in terms of service or what does it mean to give consent to something. It's like, I want to use this service, it asks for permission, okay, I just click next, agree, didn't read. So one idea is that if we make those kind of declarations of consent and terms of service also machine readable, we can perhaps visualize them. We can show that by agreeing to this is the actual data that is going to be shared. So it can show like a preview. If you want to share like your photographs, it shows these are the exact photographs that are going to be shared. So it requires that kind of like some kind of easy, lightweight methods, but it's a problem. If it requires work to understand something, we probably don't want to do that.
Any other question? Yeah.
So if I put my data in there, how long do you keep it and what do you do with it?
Well, currently, because it's in early beta, we keep it as long as it like is kept without any accidents, because it's under development, so we don't guarantee that kind of commercial service at this point. I guess it's depending on the final model, how long it should be kept. Ideally, it would be that it is kept as long as the person wants to be user of the service.
Yeah, and I could add that in Citizen Archive, all the citizens are still owning their data, so they are not doing anything with the data that they are storing there. But they can decide if they want to open something, if they want to share something. It's all about the users. So we only storage and manage it, but not using it in any commercial or any other circumstances.
Yeah, that's a really good addition. Usually when people or organizations give material to archive, the archive takes over. We are not taking over anything. We are just providing service.
Any more questions? If not, thank you very much for your interesting presentation.